started. So thank you. So thank you everyone for joining us today. This is I think our fifth series in our ongoing webinar series with global universities. I'm so excited to have Brett Basom here from Bucknell University. It's really exciting that he can't physically be in India to speak to all of you, but he's agreed to join this webinar series with us and tell you all about Bucknell University. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this opportunity to introduce myself first, after which Brett will present about Bucknell University, and then we'll get to all of the questions that you have. So so I'll quickly say my name is Namita Mehta, and I'm the president of the Red Pen. The Red Pen is an education consulting company that has been around for over 9 years. And besides working with students and helping them with the undergraduate application process, we also work with students for postgraduate programs, MBA programs, and even boarding school applications. In addition to that, we also work with institutions in India and globally to help them set up their counseling departments. So before we get started, I just wanted to say a couple of housekeeping rules that please, I'm sure many questions that you want to ask Brett, so please feel to put them in the Q&A box and we will definitely get to them. Brett will be introducing Bucknell first, after which I have some questions that I'm going to ask him, and then we will get to your questions as well, and I will integrate some of your questions into what we have planned as well. So thank you so much, and I just wanted to quickly introduce Sheetal Bora, who is the manager of our undergraduate services team. She's here supporting me today. So thank you again, Brett, for being with us this evening, and over to you.
Great. Hey, good evening, everyone, and thank you, Namita, for the nice introduction. It is truly my pleasure to be here to talk to you about Bucknell University. Believe me, I would rather be there in person. It's much easier to talk to people in person, but certainly we are going through some crazy times right now, and so we make do with what we can, right? So I hope you are all well and safe. And I know for us at Bucknell, I don't know how many of you were listening to Namita and I talking a little bit before, but Bucknell, we've gone digital for the last probably about a month and a half. So our students have been doing all their classes online, and they just finished their final exams yesterday. So we're looking forward. The plan right now is to get back to normal in the fall. Is this a good time to share my screen, Namita?
Go ahead, yes, absolutely. Go ahead.
It says I can't do it while the other participants.
I think you should be able to.
There we go. All right.
Okay.
Just give me a second here. Here we go. Let's start with, we'll go to this here. Let me blow you up here. Okay, so again, welcome everybody. I think what I want to do is just give you a quick overview of Bucknell. Obviously, we're not going to get into a lot of detail. We just can't. So I'm going to assume that you don't know a whole lot about Bucknell. But for those of you who have been doing research on us, you've probably found us if you've been looking at the rankings where we're listed as a top 50 national liberal arts college. And which is great, but that's certainly not all we are. We are, in fact, we consider ourselves more of a unique national university. And what I mean by that is we don't fit the typical mold of a liberal arts college. So most liberal arts colleges are about 1,000 to 2,500 students. Bucknell's a little bit larger than that. We have 3,600 undergraduate students enrolled at Bucknell. So we consider ourselves more of a hybrid between a liberal arts college and some of the things that you would see at a larger university. So with 3,600 students, we're able to offer more academic offerings. We actually have 3 colleges within the university, which I'll talk about in just a moment. And we have Division I athletics for any of you who are sports fans. So typically those are things that you would find at a larger university. But at the end of the day, the education at Bucknell is very liberal arts oriented, meaning that the classes are small. So the average class at Bucknell is about 20 students. The student to faculty ratio is 9 to 1. And most importantly, as a parent, one of the things that really drew me to Bucknell is that every single class is taught by a faculty member. So the faculty are there, they are hired at Bucknell. And even though most of them have their PhD or terminal degree from great universities around the world, most of them have been published or do research, but they're really at Bucknell because they're committed to teaching and advising undergraduate students. So that is why our our faculty are there. And when I talk to their students at Bucknell, I ask them, what do you like best about Bucknell? And of course, I hear a million different answers, but the one thing that I do hear over and over very consistently is that they really value the relationship that they have with their faculty, that the faculty are there for them. They meet with them outside of class. They have office hours. They engage them. They will connect them to those experiential learning opportunities that are so valuable. So things like research and internships and study abroad and leadership development, all those things that really enhance the student's education at Bucknell. So the faculty really are integral in what we do at Bucknell. As a liberal arts institution, so the focus is on critical thinking, combining different disciplines, being able to approach the world's problems through different angles and through different lenses. And so by the time students graduate from Bucknell, no matter what they're studying, if they're studying engineering or medicine or business, they're able to approach problems from different angles. And that's one of the things that we really do value at Bucknell. So let me talk a little bit about the three different colleges at Bucknell, because this is a little bit unique. You will not find this at most liberal arts colleges. So when I say college, these are just academic divisions of the university. These are not separate campuses. These are all on our campus, which, by the way, we are located in the town of Lewisburg, Pennsylvania. And I'll talk about that in just a few minutes as well. But we're in Pennsylvania, which of course is in the northeastern United States. So our first college is our College of Arts and Sciences. And this is the largest college at Bucknell, both in terms of number of students. About 65% of our students are in the College of Arts and Sciences, but also in terms of the number of majors. So areas that students can study. So right now there are about 47 to 50 different majors in the College of Arts and Sciences. So things in the natural sciences. So if you're thinking about biology or chemistry or environmental science or geology, math or computer science, these are housed in the College of Arts and Sciences, and those are some of our more popular programs there. But also the social sciences, some of the more popular programs at Bucknell in the social sciences would be things like psychology would be a big program, economics, sociology, anthropology. We also have the humanities. Humanities would be things like history and English and international relations and world languages. Those are housed as well in the College of Arts and Sciences. And of course, by the name of the college, Arts and Sciences, there are also arts, the fine arts, studio arts, theater, dance, music. So these are all housed in the College of Arts and Sciences. Yes, it is. This is a great college to be in if you're undecided. You really do not have to pick your major until the end of your sophomore year. So you have 4 semesters to choose what area is best for you. About 25% of our students end up doing a double major. So yes, it is possible to combine 2 things. So if you're not quite sure, this is a great college to start out in. And for those of you who are thinking about professional programs in health, if you want to be a doctor, you want to study pre-med, or if you want to be a lawyer and study pre-law, typically this is the college most of our students would major in. There's no rule that you have to do that, but most of our pre-med students would be studying things like biology or biochemistry, things like that. So this is a great college for those sorts of areas of study. Our next college is our College of Engineering, and a lot of people know Bucknell for engineering. It's been around for over 125 years. It is, they're highly ranked in terms of schools that have just undergraduate engineering programs. So schools without PhD programs in engineering. Bucknell is ranked 6th in the US right now. So they're very well known for engineering. And again, the great thing about it is that we do engineering in a liberal arts context. So our engineers are not just studying the technical disciplines, they are understanding the impact of their work. You want to study chemical engineering, but why? What will you do with that? Where will you go? You'll solve water problems in Africa? Okay. So we really want to approach engineering with that liberal arts background where you can tie in different disciplines. Another interesting fact, about 30% of our engineering students are female, which in the US, that's almost twice the national average. So it tends to be a program that does attract a lot of women as well as men into our engineering programs. Right now we have 8 different majors that you can study, and I'm going to look at my sheet because I'll probably forget some of them, but biomedical engineering right now is our most competitive program and most popular. Chemical engineering, civil engineering, computer engineering. We also have a program called computer science and engineering. We have electrical engineering, environmental engineering, and mechanical engineering. So these are all 4-year programs. You get a bachelor's degree in 4 years. And 6 of the 8 programs have a 1-year option where if you want to stay on for a 5th year, you can get a master's degree as well. That's something you don't decide right now, but there is that option out there for you. But these are all completed on our campus within 4 years. Again, you get the Bachelor of Science in Engineering as well. There is one 5-year program. It's a dual degree program with management. So for those who want to study engineering and business together, we do have a 5-year program that you do need to be admitted in at the very beginning. So that's an option for any of you thinking about engineering and management. And lastly, our 3rd college is our College of Management. It's actually named the Freeman College of Management after Kenneth Freeman, who's one of our benefactors who donated money for it. Management, like engineering, has been around for a long time at Bucknell. However, this is our newest college. It just came online about 2 summers ago, officially as a college, even though we've had management at Bucknell for over 100 years. Right now we have 7 different majors in management. So these are all business related things. So things like accounting, finance, global management, which would be our international business, management, markets, innovation and design, managing for sustainability, and a number of others as well. We also have a couple of minors in management now. So even if you're studying another area, you can still take business courses if that's something that you're interested in. Within management, we have a couple of interesting courses. We have Management 101, which all of our first year students take, where students actually start their own businesses their first year. And so our students in the class will break up into groups. They'll name somebody who's the president, somebody else who's in charge of finance. They'll sell some kind of a product or perform some kind of a service. And the end goal is to raise money for charity, which is kind of a nice cause. But it really does give students a real world experience from that very first year at Bucknell. As you progress into your 2nd and 3rd years, we have a small management fund course where students actually use $2 million of the university's endowment to make real-time investments. So they're making real investments using real Bucknell money, and parents are usually glad it's not their money, but that's part of the management program. We also have a program called, if you're familiar with the show Shark Tank, we have a program called Biz Pitch, where students from across the university can participate in a program where they're competing for money. They're pitching their business proposition to a panel, and the winners actually receive up to, I believe, $5,000 to start their own business. So it's a really good thing, and you don't have to be a management student. One thought while I'm thinking about it, so if you're thinking about management or engineering, it is important that you do apply to those colleges at Bucknell directly, because they are very, very difficult to transfer into. Okay, so I always advise students, if that's what you're thinking about, if there's any chance you want to be an engineer or if you want to be a management major, apply to those colleges and get in. If you don't like it, it's very easy to transfer into the College of Arts and Sciences, where you can study and be very flexible with a lot of the other majors at Bucknell. And of course, when you come to Bucknell, a big part of the liberal arts college experience is what you're learning is not just in the classroom, and we really have a lot of things happening on campus that really enhance what's happening in the classroom. So we do provide housing for all 4 years. The majority of our students live on campus. And it's guaranteed for all 4 years, so you don't have to look for a place after your first year. But this is where a lot of the really cool activities occur. When you're living with 3,600 other students on campus, getting involved in over the close to 200 clubs and organizations on campus. These are a lot of the things that students at Bucknell really say, really makes their education valuable. So what are some things that you can do at Bucknell? As I mentioned, there are close to 200 clubs and organizations. There's a very great fine arts and performing arts program at Bucknell. So if you're into music or dance or theater, you can get involved, and you don't even have to major in it. We have a great speaker series. That's Anderson Cooper there. We've had Fareed Zakaria was there not too long ago. Madeleine Albright, the former Secretary of State. So we have a wide variety. Jane Goodall, some of you may know that name. Bill Nye, the science guy. So most of these activities are free for students to attend. Bucknell is also a Division I, NCAA Division I institution. So again, this is unusual. Typically you find Division I athletic programs at large universities, but Bucknell is a smaller university that does have programs. So basketball is a big thing. And we also have 27 total sports at Bucknell, and which really does create a real nice sense of school spirit. And we also have a lot of activities and a lot of traditions. So the picture down on the bottom right-hand corner is our annual canoe battleship tournament. So if you're familiar with the game Battleship, the board game, and the objective of that, of course, is to sink your opponent's battleship. We do it in real time. So our students get into the pool and have their own canoes, and they try to sink each other. So, but we have a lot of really fun traditions and things that go back many, many, many years. And these are all things that really do enhance the student life at Bucknell. A lot of off-campus opportunities, study abroad. Probably about half of our students study abroad. So yes, even our international students who come to us, who probably consider Bucknell their study abroad experience. If you do want to take another trip, we have over 400 programs that are approved around the world, in most corners of the world as well. And these can be semester-long programs. We also have short-term programs called Bucknell In, where these are faculty-led programs that are typically 2 to 3 weeks that occur either in January. A lot of times they occur in May. So they don't interfere with the normal semester. And so, for example, you might go to Bucknell in London to study art and culture. Or there's a group that went to South Africa to study Bucknell in South Africa to study apartheid. There's an engineering class that was supposed to go to Japan this spring. They've gone to Ghana and West Africa. They went to Costa Rica to study sustainable energy. So there are lots of study abroad opportunities for all of our students. We even have service opportunities. So if you're into community service, this picture here, I believe, is a group that went to Nicaragua to do service there. So lots of opportunities for that as well. Just a little bit about Bucknell's location. We are in a town called Lewisburg, which is about an hour north of Harrisburg, which is the state capital of Pennsylvania. In terms of larger East Coast cities, if you know where New York City is, we're about 3 hours west of New York City. And Washington, D.C., we're about 3 hours north of Washington, D.C. So we are right in the middle of Pennsylvania. It's a beautiful area. It's very safe. I absolutely love it there. We are about a 10-minute walk from the as we would call it, the downtown section, which is our Market Street, we call it, is the shop or the street where all the shops and restaurants are. So students can easily walk there. Our bookstore, and the picture there in the middle, right there, is our bookstore. It's a 3-story building, which is also right downtown. And across the street from that, we have a theater that we run called the Campus Theater. It's a very old theater, but our film study students will use it to showcase their own films. And of course, we bring in lots of films from around the world, which is a really neat thing, not just for our students, but also for the community as well. We run a children's museum downtown, which our students are very engaged in. And of course, a lot of outdoor activities as well in the Lewisburg area. So let's talk just a little bit about outcomes, because, wherever you go to college, right, it's a big investment of time and, of course, of money. So you want to make sure that pays off. So a couple of stats about Bucknell. We about 96% of our students are either employed or in graduate school within 9 months after they graduate from Bucknell. The average starting salary last year was $59,600 and something. So just a little bit under $60,000 per year was the average starting salary. And that, with the survey that they do is about 99% of the class performs that survey. So it's not just a small sampling. That is the entire class, ranging from engineering majors to business majors to people doing theater and art. So it's just about $60,000 is the average starting salary. I like just a couple of our alumni here. the guy on the left, he was one of our international students. So that's Mayumbi. He was from Uganda, I believe, and he studied civil engineering and economics. So he was a double major, and he saw a real problem in his home country of Uganda that people there lacked basic transportation to get to the necessities of life. So a big obstacle for them was that they didn't have that transportation to get food or to go to school or to go to find health care. So he started a program called Bicycles Against Poverty, where he fundraises to provide bicycles to provide that basic transportation to citizens in Uganda. Jessica Jackley co-founded a business called Kiva, which is a microloan program. And Bill Westenhofer, if you're familiar with the Wonder Woman movie, he was the head of the special effects for that movie. But what's interesting, if you look at these people, Jessica studied philosophy and political science. Bill studied computer science and engineering. It shows, or it's an attestment to the liberal arts, students who are able to study different things, that define their passion in life and to make those connections. And really your generation is very different from my generation in that, who knows what jobs are going to be out there 10 or 20 years from now. I mean, right now we're going through this incredible pandemic, and how are we going to emerge on the other side? And it's really going to take people like you who are able to connect the dots between different disciplines. And that's where I feel that the liberal arts really does come in, because it's able to help you connect those dots. Just a sampling of where some of our students have gone, or alumni have gone in recent years. Let me talk a little bit about the application process. I realize you may have some questions about that as we go on, but just to give you a really quick overview, and Bucknell accepts the common application, and we just started accepting something called the coalition application this past year. So we will accept either one of them. I would say the vast majority of our students are still doing the common application, but either one is fine. We have three admission programs. So there are two options for early decision. And of course, early decision is the program where if you choose Bucknell as your top school, you can apply early and you'll be considered early and you'll get your answer before anybody else. So about 40% of our students come to us through the early decision program. So early decision 1 is November 15th is the deadline for that. And if you miss that, or if you decide later to apply to Bucknell, you can still apply by January 15th for our early decision 2 program. So again, November 15th and January 15th, early decision, you get your answer in about a month. Regular decision deadline is also January 15th. However, you don't find out your decision until the very end of March, okay? And of course, the goal is, for those of you who are planning ahead, May 1st of your final year of high school, secondary school, that is what we call the common reply date in the US. That's when students have to decide when they're going to college. So that's when they have to commit. And for those of you who have friends or family members who just are in their final year of secondary school right now, they probably just had a lot of pressure because May 1st was just last week. And so they had to make their decision by May 1st. This year is unusual that with the corona epidemic and that schools are giving a lot of extensions this year. But typically May 1st is the deadline. So how do we make the decision? So at Bucknell, every application is read by multiple admission counselors. So the first read is done actually by 2 people. We team read it. So a manager for that territory. So for example, I'm the manager for international applications, or most of them anyway. So I will read, and I will also have one of my team members, one of my partners in the admissions office at Bucknell. One of us will read the academic part of the application. The other member will read more of the extracurricular and more of the personal qualities that come through the application. We debate the application. We talk about the strengths and weaknesses of it. And then we make a recommendation. We don't make a final decision, but we make a recommendation to either admit or not admit or waitlist or whatever that decision may be. It will then go to the manager of the particular college, because each of the 3 colleges at Bucknell are looking for different things. They have certain numbers of seats that they can fill. And so that manager has to has to manage all of that. And so they're looking for qualities for what they want in engineering. You know, obviously someone who wants engineering is going to need to have a stronger math and physics background than someone who wants to study theater, let's say. So that manager in the college will also review the application. And then finally, our dean of admissions will make the final decision. You know, he'll either approve the acceptance or not. And so it's read multiple times. Sometimes they'll even go to a committee where they're debated amongst lots of people. So, but do rest assured that we do read each and every application at Bucknell. We'll typically get close to 10,000 applications. We are looking for a freshman or a first year class of this year 990 students is typically, and we'll accept probably 34% is where we are right now to fill that class. So, but we're looking for a first year class of 990. And what do we look for? And this should be nothing too surprising for you, but we look at everything. You've probably heard the word holistic. So we're looking at everything. Obviously, your academic background drives most of it. And so your secondary school background, we look at whatever curriculum you're in. If you're in the Indian curriculum, if you're in an IB curriculum, if you're in AP, it doesn't matter. You know, we're just looking for some kind of rigor and the fact that you're challenging yourself. And of course, your grades are important. Your essay is important. Activities are important. So we just try to really look at everything that you bring to us. And quick note on financial aid. Yes, we do offer financial aid at Bucknell. And in terms of, let me just kind of steer this more towards the international side. So I'm going to assume that most of you are not U.S. citizens or permanent residents. So in terms of that, about 30% of our international students do receive financial aid at the Bucknell. So not everybody, but about 30% will do that. We basically will require two forms to be filled out. One is the International Student Financial Aid application. So I apologize, it is not listed on this slide right now, but the ISFAA, the International Student Financial Aid application. And then we also have a form called the Confidential Statement of Finances, which also shows your financial background. So those are the two forms that we require at Bucknell. We do not require the CSS profile from international students. And we do not require the FAFSA. Those are for U.S. citizens. So again, International Student Financial Aid application. Last year, the average financial aid package was about almost $53,000. So we do give out a few full ride or very close to full rides. And when I say few, I'm talking like 2 or 3 a year. But most students get much less than that. So it does range. There's a very wide range from, like I said, full ride up to down to maybe the students who might receive just $10,000 or something. But the average package last year was almost $53,000 US dollars as well. Oh, and I should say merit scholarships. International students can apply for our merit scholarships as well. They are not automatic. Okay, I know some schools have automatic scholarships. You apply for admission, they automatically give you something. You do need to take the initiative and apply separately to them. There is a listing on our website of our academic or merit scholarships. Some of them you will not qualify for, but there are some that may fit very nicely with you. So it's up to you to decide which ones match up with you. You're allowed to apply up to 3. You can only win 1, but you can apply to up to 3. And these are regardless of financial need. You do not have to have any financial need. But if you do have financial need, you can combine the merit scholarship with your need-based financial aid. And hopefully, you know, for students who are admitted, we do a pretty good job of meeting their financial needs. So. And this is just about it for me, for my part of the presentation. We'll go. This is kind of a picture of campus. It's this is the part where if you were on our campus right now, we would give you a tour of campus. And it's about 100 buildings, about 450 acres, and again, 3,600 students live here. I also want to throw in one thing which I forgot earlier. I do want to talk just for 30 seconds about our international student services. So we support our international students very well at Bucknell. From the time that you're admitted, our ISS staff, the International Student Services staff, will reach out to you to help you with the visa process, help with airport transportation. They run a week-long orientation before anybody else even gets on campus. So by the time everyone else is there, you feel very comfortable on campus. And even throughout the year, they help with transportation to different places. They'll assign you a local host family where you'll get to know a local family very well, maybe have dinner with them. So they do a really, really nice job supporting our international students. And as I said earlier, we even with the pandemic going on and we've been shut down for a month and a half, we still have about 150 to 200 international students still living on campus right now, and they're supporting them throughout the whole time. So thanks for listening, and I'll be happy to take any questions that you have. I probably talked longer than I should have, but.
No, not at all. Thank you so much. It was such a thorough presentation, and you covered so much. So thank you for that. Just give me a moment while can you see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, great. Yeah, so thanks so much for that, Brett. It was such a great overview and such a great way to end the presentation. Your campus looks beautiful. So the first thing that I want to ask you, Brett, is a little bit related to next year's applicants, fall 2021 applicants, because obviously there's so much concern there. Considering the current pandemic, our current fall 2020 students, are they asking you for deferrals? And then what does that mean for the next year students that apply? And also for the next, I'm just going to add on another question that for the next year students that apply, considering that a lot of their 11th grade has been in the middle of this pandemic and maybe washed out to some extent, is there certain aspects that you're going to consider when they certain aspects you can consider more over others?
Yeah, it's interesting, and the whole world is dealing with this. So we're seeing different approaches from around the world. So the best thing I can say is that we're just going to work with that whatever information the students can present. We understand that educational systems around the world will be different this year, and testing will be different, and so whatever the student can present from their particular school, we're going to look at. One change that we most likely will make because of standardized testing right now, we do require the SAT or the ACT of international applicants. However, I think there's a really, really, really good chance that will go away next year. I believe we will be SAT optional. So what you want to do before you apply, and by the way, the application will go online August 1st, so there still is some time. But by that time, we'll have that on our website, so you'll know whether or not you need to do that. But I'm 99% sure that we will be SAT optional for international applicants this year.
Just this year or indefinitely?
Hopefully indefinitely. I think my feeling is that we'll do it and everybody will love it. But I have to say officially, it'll be this year, but I think it'll be indefinite. With our U.S. students, just to give you a little history, this past year, right now, the year that we just are finishing right now, was our first year that we went SAT optional for domestic students. For most of them, there was a couple of categories that they couldn't do it. But we announced it as a 5-year pilot program where we would test it for 5 years and look at the outcomes and make a final decision. But my feeling is that, especially with testing being canceled around the world and really all the upheaval, I think it'll probably become permanent.
Okay, thank you. So, this is a really interesting question because, demonstrated interest, especially for a college like yours, where you have such strong schools and it's such a strong ethos, and you obviously want to have a high yield and admit people who really want to go to Bucknell. How are you going to view that this year?
So you won't believe this, but Bucknell does not track demonstrated interest. Okay. I've been at Bucknell for 3 years, and I was really surprised, but they do not track it whatsoever. And it was because of our vice president. He just did not believe that was fair. It just did not really show a whole lot. So we've never tracked it. If someone does, inquire or something, sure, obviously we get their information and we know that they've inquired, but we're not seeing, how many times people have visited campus because we just can't. It's not fair for example, for international students who can't visit campus. It's not fair. And so we don't track it. And now we will have a new vice president coming on board next year. So I don't know if that will change, but right now we've never tracked it.
Okay. So that's interesting to know.
Now, having said that, I like, a little insight tip. I like it when students who are interested, really interested, they're contacting me, and then I know that they're interested. But in the end, it doesn't make a whole lot of difference. We have to look at the facts. We have to compare them to the whole pool. And so what's on your application really is what will drive the decision. So.
That's great. So you've spoken a lot about your, your campus and your 3 schools, and I have a lot of questions about that I'll ask you in a moment. But what kind of a student would really thrive at your campus?
I think somebody who's really going to be engaged, someone who takes academics seriously, but who likes to have a lot of fun. I think the typical Bucknell student likes to, they're a serious student, they do well academically, but they like to have fun. And it doesn't matter what you do. I mean, some of our students are athletes, some are musicians, some are into service, some would do theater, but we would like our students who want to get involved in something, international student life. So typically that student who wants to be engaged, who's not or is not afraid to grow through trying different experiences, and someone who wants to take advantage of the liberal arts, even if they want to be an engineer or if they want to be a doctor or a business person, that they understand that it's a big world and there's a lot of things, a lot of connections to be made.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love the fact that you said, that our engineers are the ones that have the liberal arts background as well. They're the practical engineers, right? So I really like that. So, I mean, that just kind of leads me to my next question. Can you major across the schools, or do you have to be in one school only?
You can. There are some limitations depending on the combination that you want to do. Engineering becomes a little bit more rigid in that you have to, if you remember earlier, I said you have until the end of your sophomore year to pick your major. That's mainly in the College of Arts and Sciences and also in the College of Management as well. In the College of Engineering, you have 1 semester just because there's a lot of coursework and to stay on track. They have a course called Engineering 100 where you can try 3 different areas of engineering that first year. That first semester, but then you have to pick one by the end of the first semester. So within engineering, because of the rigidity, you can major outside of the College of Engineering. I know some people are doing engineering in music or engineering in math, engineering in physics. I mean, those are very easy ones, very natural ones to do. Management, it's a little bit difficult as well, but we have minors, and this is where I think students get the breadth and depth of an education at Bucknell. So there are 70 different minors. So even if you're studying engineering or physics or biology and you want to have some business courses, you can do a minor in management. So there are ways to study across the colleges, even if you're not doing a double major.
That's really interesting. I mean, there's a question in the chat, asked by one of our attendees, which leads on from exactly what you said. There's a very, unique 5-year management and technology program at Bucknell University, which is highly competitive. So can you speak a little bit about how you assess students for that program and tell us more about that, please?
Yeah, so it's a program, it's 5 years, and it's the dual degree program. So the student gets 2 bachelor's degrees at the end of the 5 years. And this is one that you do need to be admitted to up front. So if that's something that you're interested in, you want to make sure that you do apply to that. Obviously, we're going to be looking at different things. Primarily, we want to make sure that you have the math and science background to be able to handle engineering. So we'll look at math and physics and chemistry and whatever else, what other science programs we have. So that's primarily, and then just good students. I don't think there's a magic thing that we're looking for, but just someone who's a good student who we think will thrive in that program.
Okay, and do you admit many students for that program every year, or is it just a limited number?
There is a limited number, probably about 20. I don't know the exact number, but it's about 20. But most of our programs, like biomedical engineering, that's 24 for that. So, wow. Just because of the seats, and we have lab space that we can't oversubscribe to, so we do have to watch our numbers. But
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Sorry, give me a second. So I'm going to move on from the majors now and just talk a little bit about campus safety. You that's such a concern for parents because sending your children so far away, and then especially with the current pandemic, and you spoke so well about how you're already taking care of all the international students on your campus currently. But what other measures are you taking at Bucknell University for students and safety?
Yeah, so when I first went to Bucknell, just was really impressed by just the feel of the campus, and just, it's in a small town where there's not a lot of crime going on, and it's easy to walk around at night or in the dark, and you just feel safe. They have a full-time security force on campus, but you don't really see a lot, but they're there if anyone needs anything. And it's the type of environment where I think students just look out for each other. It's small enough that people know who other people are, and if something were out of place, they're able to report it or things. I think students feel very safe at Bucknell. So the student government or the administration is very active in terms of just being very proactive and making sure that students feel safe. And so there's just a lot going on in terms of just people watching out for others and just feeling really good. When I first went to Bucknell, I felt very, very positive about the environment. My son goes to Bucknell, so I would not have sent him there if I had any qualms about it. So he's there. He's actually home right now, but he's there just completing his second year, and he just thinks it's great in terms of just the feel on campus, the safety. He has great friends, and he'll walk around in the middle of the night and going back to his dorm from the library or from lab, or he's really big into music. So there's a music building where the practice rooms are open late at night. So he's just had no problems at all.
That's great. So Brett, that just leads to my next question about, your location, which is a little bit remote.
Yeah.
And just in terms of international students, you mentioned that you're 3 hours away from Washington, D.C., and then 3 hours away from New York. So are those the two major airports where you can land and then you drive to your campus, or are there other ways to get there?
Well, yeah, we coordinate the transportation at the beginning and the end of each semester, and beginning and end of the year, and over the breaks as well. And it's not just for international students, because a lot of our U.S. students are from the West Coast, and that's a 5-hour flight right there. So we do have to coordinate a lot of that. So we have for each break we have transportation, buses, coaches, shuttles that will go to a lot of the major East Coast hubs. So, Washington, D.C., New York City, Philadelphia as well is not too far. New York City, even one that will go all the way up to Boston. And so that's one way that students can get to airports. Our International Student Services Office will actually coordinate shuttles as well. Believe it or not, the closest airport that students fly into is Harrisburg, and that's about an hour from campus. So we arrange transportation to that as well. So Harrisburg, even though it's considered an international airport, you still need to make a connection somewhere. So typically students would fly into Washington, D.C., Detroit, I'm trying to think where else, Philly, New York, and make that connection to Harrisburg. And then we run a shuttle, which is, again, only about an hour from campus.
So it's not so bad.
It's not so bad, no. We have a lot of students about 13% of our students come from outside of the U.S. and again, a lot from outside of the Pennsylvania area as well. So we do have to provide transportation.
No, I can imagine it's such an international community that you have at Bucknell University that this is something that you would have had to think through. So I just brought it up because in your presentation that you mentioned the 3 hours from the major cities.
Right.
And I didn't think that there would be a connecting flight from your local airport, but yes. So
yeah.
And so my next question is, what is the best way for prospective students to learn more about student life and on-campus experiences? I guess in this lockdown, we have the online method, and many of them are going to be looking at your virtual videos, taking your virtual tours. Is there a way that they can reach out to the alumni or the international student office or anything else?
Yeah. So we've been doing a lot of that, especially with the seniors, the final year students who had to make their decision before May 1st. We actually had a platform where they had to be admitted, but once they were in, they could connect with students from across campus, with faculty. We did a lot of live events. So like our College of Engineering did a number of events, just specifically about computer engineering or about civil engineering. We had the health professions advisor do live events about what's it mean to be a pre-med student. So there are a lot of live events. For prospective students, though, it's more of, connect with us. We'll put you in touch with a student through our International Student Services Office, and we'd be happy to do that. Obviously, the best way is to actually come and visit campus, but that's obviously not going to happen for a while.
Yeah, we don't know when that's going to happen. Hopefully soon, but sooner.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I see you've answered the next question. So the ideal resources is just at the moment, I guess, go online, right? And maybe reach out to you.
There's a lot online. We have virtual tours online, but you can connect with me or through our International Student Services office, and we can connect you with the student if you do want to connect. Obviously, there's social media platforms that are used. There's Facebook, Instagram. We have an account, Twitter. There's a student-run account called I am Ray Bucknell. It's a Instagram account where it's just still totally student-run. So it's kind of an unfiltered sort of a thing for students to use as well.
Yes. That's always good because, sometimes, things on the website it's always going to be sanitized, right? So it's always good to hear from students directly and understand what's really going on campus, and if there's any, issues or anything that you can relate to, which makes you more, which makes you get to know the university better. So I really like that method. So I'm just going to ask a question about like alumni interviews and, what, again, with the current situation, and hopefully things will be back to normal in the fall, but if not, are you going to be offering them online? And do you guys use Initial View?
So here's another thing, kind of like the demonstrated interesting, believe it or not, Bucknell does not do interviews. So they scrapped that a while back. However, having said that, we will certainly meet with students. When I come to India, typically I will meet with students one-on-one, be happy to do that. We can put you in touch with an alumni as well. But in terms of an interview that we evaluate students to make an admission decision, we don't do that. So for students who want to present additional information and they can't meet up with us, yes, we do accept Initial View. There's another company called Vericant, if you're familiar with that. So either one, you can go online, you can do an interview through them. And when you submit it, it's automatically added to your Bucknell application. So that is something that we definitely will look at it if you submit it. But again, it's not necessarily something that you have to do. It's not required, and we don't use it as an evaluating tool.
That's quite fair, I think. So, yeah. So you spoke a lot about, financial aid in your presentation, and you outlined, very nicely the amount of aid that you have for even international students. Do you think that do you think that there will be an impact on financial aid for international students in the upcoming year or two? And then another question that I have, I think there's a counselor in our audience, and she's asking whether, do you have any scholarships that the school can nominate students for?
To answer the second question first, like a high school can nominate?
Yeah. I think there are certain, certain universities that require like a high school counselor to nominate students for a scholarship. I think that's very common in Canadian universities.
Yeah, we don't have any that you can do that. Now, certainly we've had students, when they apply for a scholarship, they'll have a counselor or a teacher will send a letter of recommendation or just some kind of statement that to support them. So that's certainly something they can do, but there's not a scholarship program where they go out and nominate a student particularly for a scholarship. Yeah, the student has to initiate it at Bucknell. So, and in terms of the other question, I think there will be. Now, this year, it's interesting. We did give out more financial aid, not just to international students, but to American students. And then we had a lot of people, parents and students requesting additional financial aid, additional consideration. So our financial aid budget did go up for this year's class. The other interesting thing that we announced just a few days before the May 1st deadline is that we were freezing tuition from last year. So there's no tuition increase, which essentially saves everybody about $2,000 as well. So going forward for next year, I don't know yet. I suspect it will be a larger budget than it was. We did over award this year by, I think I heard like about $1 million, so our budget did go up a lot this year. So I suspect that will probably happen next year, but again, it's all going to depend on the situation, with what's happening.
Of course, it's all up in the air at the moment, right?
Up in the air, yeah, but.
Yeah. So yes, again, you did touch upon this, but I think, we have a specific question that pertains to international students. What does, Bucknell do to help international students secure those jobs? And do your do degrees like economics and psychology at Bucknell fall under the STEM designation, allowing students to then stay on for the 3 years rather than the 1 year?
Yeah, so about the STEM, I should know this. I don't know if those two do, but we do offer for obviously all of our STEM programs, they can get the 2-year extension on top of the 1-year OPT, occupational practical training. I'm sorry, I don't know.
Okay.
That's another office that does that. But I know, for example, like we have a program in, typically management does not, but we have a program in business analytics, a major that we just added a year ago, and we made sure that falls under the STEM designation. So,
Okay.
but in terms of support for our students, we have a career development center that works with all of our students, and specifically for internationals, we also work with an alumni network as well. There's a guy who I met with in Singapore not too long ago who is looking just for international students to do internships there in Singapore. Twice a year, we run a career expo on campus for all of our students, where they can connect with alumni and local employers, and also parents of our current students who are also looking to connect with students, not just for jobs, but for internships as well. So yes, there are ways to get connected with that.
It's like a global Bucknell community, and you just help students with that, and yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the alumni network's really, really good at Bucknell, and that extends internationally as well. So.
Okay. I mean, there's a question here, from one of the attendees that's asking about how many Indian students you have on campus.
How many Indian students? So I'm going to guess probably about 20. So we typically will get 5 Indians a year, 4 to 5 Indians a year from India, but then there's also a lot of Indian American students as well, who have Indian heritage, Indian backgrounds, but have a U.S. passport or citizenship.
I've grown up in the U.S., so yes.
Yes, but directly from India, probably 4 to 5 a year.
Okay. There's some specific questions that I'll get to, after I ask you this question. So what piece of advice would you offer to international applicants in this time? I think, given the current situation and the questions and the anxiety that parents and students have, what one piece of advice would you offer them to just make this process easier and, make them better, more successful applicants?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I think just take a deep breath, and be flexible. We're all going through this, and we're working very, very hard, and not just from Bucknell. I've talked to a lot of my colleagues at other universities. We're doing as much as we can, dealing with this uncertainty. There are a lot of questions out there that we don't have answers to yet. But just taking a deep breath, knowing that we'll get through this. We're going to work with our students. A lot of, the May 1st deadline, a lot of colleges have relaxed that a little bit. We found that we were working very closely with our students, and we actually met our goal by May 1st. So we're okay. But now, again, going forward, there's going to be a lot of uncertainty. And again, Bucknell's been very, very good. And I say this as a parent of a Bucknell student. They've been very, very good in communicating, what they're doing and what their plans are. In fact, we have I think I mentioned earlier, we have a meeting with the president of the university, an online webinar in about 2 hours. So he's going to give us an update. So we should know more what's going on. But some advice in terms of the application process. One is a very simple thing is don't miss any deadlines. I was really, really surprised this year. Vast majority of students get everything in on time, but there were a number of students who, our deadline's January 15th, and it was into February, and we're still looking for things. And they were good students, but, we couldn't consider them for financial aid, and just because they didn't have their financial aid application in yet. And then my last piece of advice, I guess, would be to use the essay. And I know you've probably heard this before, but use the essay, because not only does that show us your writing ability, it's really your chance to tell us more about yourself and to give us a feel for your personality, who you are, what's important to you. So take advantage of the essay to show us something that the rest of the application doesn't. So those would be my bits of advice.
I love the last one.
Okay, thanks.
No, I really do. I mean, I think it's important. We all think that the essay is really important, but sometimes we try and communicate to our students that you really have to say something different. You don't need to reiterate what's already on your transcript.
Right.
Or what's already on your activities list. Tell them something totally different. Tell them something that they won't know about you. So
Yeah, I mean, I love reading the stories and the essays and just getting to, I feel like I know the students sometimes. And I'll be honest, you know, there are essays I've laughed at, not laughed at, but laughed with, and other essays I've cried. I mean, you know, it's just, you know, you can really get into them. You know.
that's great. So I'm going to actually move on to the questions and answer box now. I mean, I've tried to ask as many as I can throughout throughout these questions. But there's one about, you know, Greek life at Bucknell. Can you talk
Yeah.
a little bit about that? And is it a big part of the, you know, the community there?
So yeah, the quick answer, it's a fairly big part. It's probably about 50% of the students are involved in Greek life. And of course, for those of you who don't know what that is, that's getting involved in fraternities and sororities and that stuff. So about 50%. Now, the good thing that Bucknell has done, they don't allow anyone to do that their first year. So they give students the first year to engage in other campus activities, to meet their friend group, to make connections on campus. And then their sophomore year, their second year, they can decide what's best for them. They can decide, you know, if that's appropriate for them or if they don't want to do that. So my son, I'll give you an example, has chosen not to do that. He had, to be honest, he had no interest in it. You know, the students who do it love it and they get involved, but there are 50% of the students who don't do it. And my son just felt that wasn't for him. He found his friend group through the music program, so he's very connected to that, and through his classwork. And there's actually a thing at Bucknell called residential colleges. So this, if any of you end up at Bucknell, I highly recommend that you do this your first year. You join a residential college, which is basically themed housing where you're still in a residence hall, you're in a dorm room, but you're living on the same floor with other students who have similar interests. So, for example, there's a residential college for arts. There's one for science and technology. There's one for social justice. There's one for food. And so you're living with other students who have similar interests. You have faculty mentors that connect you to things. You do special projects together. You do your first year foundation class together, and you'll do field trips, but it's a great way to meet other students that have similar interests. So my son got really connected into that, and that's, so he did not, but yes, there's about 50% of the students who will get involved in Greek life.
Okay. So we have a question about research opportunities for undergraduate students, and you know, how early can you engage in that?
So you can get involved in that your first year. In fact, that's one thing when you were talking about the career options. One thing I forgot to mention is the massive research opportunities on campus, and that's, a lot of students will do that, and even in the summer where they have funded positions, so students can not only get experience, but they can make money being on campus doing research during the summer and during the academic year. So some of the research is with faculty where they're working on faculty-led research projects, and if a student has an independent project they want to work on, they can have a faculty mentor guide them and oversee them, but they can do independent research as well.
And so then you can literally like come to Bucknell and identify a professor and, you know, try and get on a research project, or like.
Yes, you can do that. They say by the end of the first year you can do that.
Wow. So, you know, you did mention that the engineering school is one of the most competitive and highly ranked schools in the U.S. So there's someone here asking about the admit rate for engineering, and do you have to declare which engineering program you want to do when you apply?
So I'll answer the second question first. So you should pick one of the 8 engineering majors. Now, one of the options is undecided engineering, and that's perfectly fine. But you should pick one. And then, as I mentioned earlier, there's a course called Engineering 100 for the first semester where you're still allowed to try up to 3 areas. So you pick 3 areas that first semester, you take a class in them, and then by the end of the first semester, you have to pick. So there is still some flexibility, but for things like biomedical engineering, if you're interested in that, you probably should apply for that up front to make sure that you have a seat reserved in that. So the more within engineering, the most competitive, I think, is biomedical. Mechanical is pretty competitive. Civil and chemical, those are probably the most competitive. Then going down to a little less competitive would be things like environmental engineering, electrical engineering, and computer science and engineering as well. And the other part of the question was, oh, admit rates. Gosh, they're probably in the 20%. The biomedical is going to be the most competitive, but they're probably in the 20 to 30% range.
Okay, it's tough to do engineering at your college, so.
Yeah.
So I think there's time for one more question. Just give me a minute while I just quickly look at the chat box.
Yeah, pick a good one.
Pick a good one.
Or
I'm going to ask you two. One is, what is the most common major at Bucknell? And in terms of, students in the IB diploma program, what is the average IB score that you have among your admitted students?
Okay, so in terms of numbers, I would say the most popular major, the largest major, is biology. But you know what? A lot of colleges say that just because it's a program that a lot of students are interested in. It covers a lot of ground. So biology is our largest in terms of numbers. Psychology is up there too. Psychology is pretty big. Some of the other programs could be just as big, but obviously we have capacity issues. We can't take everybody who wants to come for some of the other programs. But biology and psychology are the two largest. Economics is pretty large too in terms of numbers. And IB scores, probably mid-30s. Mid-30s, again, it's going to vary a little bit by department. If you're in the lower 30s, you're going to be competitive for some things, upper 30s for other things as well, but probably mid-30s is probably where most of our IB, the mid-range of our IB students would fall.
Thank you so much for that, Brett. I've tried to answer as many questions as I can from the chat box, so thank you, attendees, for putting your questions in. I have put Brett's email address here, and I'm sure he'll be more than happy for you to email him directly and ask any further questions that you might have. Thank you again for your time, Brett. I think time's up now. I appreciate you joining our webinar series and look forward to seeing you the next time you're in India.
Well, thank you, Namita. Thanks for having me, and stay safe, everyone. It was a pleasure being here with you.
Thank you.